Welcome to Cancer and Peace. My name is Sean Stewart, and as always, I'm here with our host, Peter Scalzo, the guru of all things cancer and peace. And he's laughing.
Thanks.
Yeah. It's like, that's what you want to hear, right? Today is a special episode, though, for two reasons. One is that we like to do special episodes here where we bring in a guest. And so sitting in this studio with me is Wes Nepomicino, and he has been a longtime friend of both Peter and I, a colleague. Wes and I work together here at CBF, and Wes has got some special things to share today. And before we get to just talking about that a little bit, you can say hi if you want, Wes.
Hello, guys.
Before we get to talking about our topic, our producer has reminded me that today is our 52nd episode, which means we've been releasing one episode a week. 52. There's supposed to be fireworks that are supposed to go off with this at some point in time. I even heard there's going to be a flyover, like the fighter jets are going to fly over. So we'll wait for the sound of that. Hold on, pause. Timing must be off.
Do you still like me, Sean, after 50 seconds?
That's a different episode, so we'll talk about that on a different episode. So, yeah, but it's 1 year. So we're celebrating 1 year of releasing episodes here. I know we've actually recorded longer, and it's been fun.
Yeah.
We've had a lot of fun and a lot of conversations.
Yeah.
And so now, as I'm
also,
told,
Sean, I want to thank you because you just do so much for the podcast. And I want to thank Jack, who produces and does all the technical work and really weighs in on everything that we do here. So if something goes wrong, it's Jack's fault, right?
Yes.
Or else Sean.
No, I didn't agree with that. So today, as we were preparing for the podcast, and Jack came to let us know that we were late. Get in here, guys. That was kind of the so yeah, we had to put up with being bullied by our producer to actually get conversations going that are on the record. And so I'm getting a fist shaked at me right now. So
but
awesome. It is a lot of fun, and it's exciting that we actually have gone an entire year. It just blows my mind.
Pretty cool.
And I am told, this is just a complete side note, that you and I have enough conversation that AI can now take our voices and it can create whatever it wants about who we are just using our voice imprints. And so there's going to be a time when we're not necessary because they'll just take and create episodes for us.
Yeah. Wow.
Crazy.
Hope
That's
not.
way off topic of what we're talking about in our special.
Well, I was also reminded, just off topic too, is launching this, like getting the idea, praying about my purpose and passion, December of 2022, praying about, God, what would you have me do next, purpose and passion, and really feeling a desire to do a podcast like thing, that was like a next step for the cancer and peace discussion. So I approached Sean and Jack, and we settled on the resources here at the mission that Sean runs, and so that's where we broadcast every week in New York, out of New York. So here we are, and today we have just a really good buddy and a special guest, Wes. I don't know how long I've known Wes for. How long have you known Wes for?
Well, Wes and I met Wes. Wes was actually part of the ministry here. He wasn't living here full time, but he was part of the ministry here before I ever showed up. And I am in my 11th year now, something in that range.
Yeah.
And so Wes is well past
known
me.
Wes for 9 years, I would say.
But Wes and I, like Wes was here during the summers because we ran a summer camp, and so he would come and stay the entire summer whenever I started on here. And so I got to know Wes in that window of time. And I'll set up something here. First off, Wes doesn't have cancer that we're aware of, and I don't wish that on you. I'm not, so you may be like, well, why do we have Wes on the podcast if this is a Cancer and Peace podcast? And so, but there's a really good answer, because today we wanted to talk about a topic that you have thought about because you've run through this as you've gone down your cancer journey, and that is, am I a burden? am I a burden? It's a big question
Yes.
that you think somebody who's going through a serious cancer journey who needs care and support
Yep.
is going to ask themselves, am I a burden? And it's such a really important question to really learn how to digest this. And as we talked about, we're like, who better to talk about this than Wes? And the reason for that isn't because he has cancer. Wes has lived his entire life with cerebral palsy. And as somebody in our mission with cerebral palsy, he's had to cross this road because his entire life has been lived in a wheelchair. And he has an entire support team of people who come and help him get ready in the mornings to show up and do work here in our mission. And he helps to lead some of our discipleship, especially for the special needs community, but in all areas. Online discipleship that he does. He answers the phone and interacts with our office team here on a regular basis. And so he lives here full time, but he has to have an entire support team to meet all of his care needs. And it doesn't matter whether it's cooking, cleaning, and you have quite a bit of independence. So he does live in an apartment of his own over on our campus here, but he has an entire team of different guys that show up in the morning to help you meet needs. And you and I have had a lot of conversations, and this question of am I a burden is something that you've had to wrestle with. Is that a fair statement?
Yeah, that's a very fair statement because that question popped in my mind a lot, and I can say every day it popped in my mind. Some days it's okay, some days I really struggle about it.
That's and can I is it okay to share how old you are? Will you share that with everybody here?
I'm 45 years old.
45. So at 45 years old, you've lived your entire life with cerebral palsy. You've had this disability where you've been in a chair your entire life, and you're still wrestling with this question.
Oh yeah, I was born with cerebral palsy and yeah, had the chair all my life and had struggle in the house a lot.
So I'm going to ask you, so we have the questions on the table. What's your current answer? Are you a burden? Because we had asked you, we said, hey, this is what we're going to do for the episode. And so I know you've already had time to think about, to wrestle with this. Where are you at in that question today in your own life?
Well, today am I a burden? Like other people, some days good where I think I'm not a burden, I just need a little more help, little more like assistance with, especially in dorm thing, in the house, and some days I feel like, hey, this the way that God made me, and I'm getting more and more enjoyment of thinking how God made me, but it's still a struggle for me daily.
Yeah,
Sean, can I do
You may
do a follow up? So Wes is a leader in our recovery ministry that we do, and we give up anonymity when we become a leader in this particular recovery ministry. So Wes leads men, and Wes has given his testimony, and he leads small groups in the context of recovery. And that's actually how I know Wes. I think it was through Celebrate Recovery West that I met you,
Yeah.
maybe through the mission here. But what strikes me is that I know myself, I struggle with having performance-based values, and we live in a culture and the church today is so performance-based, right? Like when you're performing, then you have value, and when you're not performing, you don't have value. And so where do you get value? How do you feel valued?
The value to me is a hard thing to do because the days where I think I can match up to Peter or Sean, I got to inside my heart, I got to feel like I'm doing my job, and sometimes to me I'm doing less, but the days like a lot of days now, I think I told a friend, hey, all I got to do is make God smile at me at what I do. And like, that's where I say, hey God, I'm trying my best, I'm doing my best. And that time where I feel in my heart and my mind where God saying, hey Wes, you did a good job today.
Thanks, Wes.
Yeah, I was thinking about a story that fits in with that, and I think Wes won't mind me sharing this. Is my dad had come up to visit the mission, but he hadn't really known Wes at the time, and so it was early on, and he stayed for a little while, and he rode into church with Wes and I on one Sunday morning, and we would always play worship music on the radio while we were going in, and Wes likes to sing whenever we're going, but Wes, as most of you can hear his voice, with CP, it's affected his ability to speak or hold a tune in the way that somebody else might be able to. And I'm not gifted in singing either, so I have my own deficiencies. But Wes isn't always on beat, and he's not always in tune. But Wes is singing along to this worship music, and I remember my dad sitting in the back, and he's just like, "Oh my." And it wasn't, oh my, this guy can't hold a tune. It was, oh my, I'm experiencing real worship. And I think that was something that has resonated with me and our journey with Wes. Is sometimes there's this idea of, like, even Jesus looked at the widow who gave her one mite, and she gave everything, and he saw that act of worship as greater than any act of worship from people who were giving out of their wealth, but were only giving a part of their wealth. And so it's a similar concept.
Yeah.
That Wes, in giving worship with a voice that he struggles with, sometimes being on beat or holding a tune. And I laugh because at the end of recovery meetings, we do the serenity prayer.
Yeah.
And if you've ever done a group prayer where you're all reciting something like a liturgy, it's people tend to try to follow along with kind of the speed of the group. But Wes, because of his the cadence at which he goes at, Peter will sometimes actually put his fingers in his ears just so he can say it without having to hear Wes, because it's going to throw him off cadence. And it's like, hey, where are we at in the prayer?
And
Wes,
it's like Wes loves it.
Yes.
Yeah.
It is funny, but it's an interesting thing when you see that when somebody is worshiping with their all, with what has been given, even if it's not necessarily on tune or at cadence, there's something more beautiful than what can be created from someone who may have perfect tune and perfect cadence.
Yeah. Sean, that's a great point. And I just want to switch to my understanding of, Wes, how you feel value. And my understanding of how you feel value is when you're heard, when people don't finish your sentences for you, when you're allowed to speak, and then people actually hear to understand you. And I think that in the cancer space also, when someone is feeling like a burden because their family has to take care of them, what Sean was saying was really right. You know, all of a sudden you can't do for yourself what you normally could do, and you have to be driven places and all that, whether somebody's in treatment or recovery from surgery, whatever. But I think a gift for that person would be that they're heard, you know, that people hear and try to understand. Because I think there's healing that comes from being vulnerable and just being heard in your vulnerability. You can be honest about how you're feeling. And I kind of feel like that with you, Wes, that I can value you by hearing, by listening and listening to understand.
Yeah, I agree with you 100% on that, because in my mind, if a person talk to me and they ask me a question, and I see them sit there trying to understand, and that's where I say, hey, this guy or girl really cared about me, and they don't mind sitting with me for 2-3 hours, you know, just to listen to me. But I could say there are a few people who done that to me, but there are a lot of people who just they always wait. I got to go always. I'll come back to you in like 10 minutes, and I wait 10 minutes. They don't come back. I'm like, well, God, sometimes I really go to God and say, does that person want to hear me out, or that in my soul, my heart, my sinful self is saying that person don't care about me, she or he throw me away.
Having you and I have interacted quite a bit over the course of a few years, and one of the things that I would say I know, but I'd love to hear you talk about, is it hasn't always been that you've been willing to share yourself because you didn't feel valued or you didn't feel like somebody wanted to hear you. What got you to the point where you felt like you were willing to share, and that people did, that you were willing to share yourself? Because there's a side of you that I think was, hey, why bother sharing if nobody's going to listen? And that's not where you're at now. You share a lot of yourself. But how did you get from why bother to I'm going to share my life?
I think as a young kid, I noticed what I explained before. I've been thrown away. People been running up and down, and I think it hit me when I started celebrate recovery like 6, 7 years ago, that hit me like, why don't I share my whole heart? Why don't share my feeling? And I know the first time I went to celebrate recovery, it was a Thursday night. I went in there, say, God, why am I here? But of course I didn't know, so a couple times, I was quiet, but when I got comfortable with it, I think God spoke to me and say, was no matter what, talk, and it, God put him, the man in my life, like John and Peter, that I can sense God telling me that are good men, they are willing to listen, but it's my job to be willing to be open as I am open today.
Yeah.
I think
That's
it
good.
fits into this burden conversation because I wanted to throw a concept out there and maybe hear your guys' thoughts on this if it's all right. And that you had to see what you had to say is valuable enough, even if there were people who didn't value what you had to say, to be able to share it, is what I'm hearing you say. And you found that was something that you walked through. So I'll be interested in that. But a conversation that you and I had a short while back, I put a concept on the table, and I will for today's conversation too, and that is that to be in relationship with somebody who has a special need or who is in cancer means that there's a cost to that relationship, and so the cost one could call a burden, and so there is a burden or there is a cost to be in relationship with Wes. For you and I to go to CR on a Thursday night means that I have to arrange and pick you up in a wheelchair van that can, and we load up and we deal with all the things there are for transporting your power wheelchair and going. And that's not that big of a deal. It's just, we have to work out the logistics. But my point to that is that there's a cost to relationship when there's needs that are involved with people who, especially somebody who's in a cancer journey, who has regular treatments, extreme treatments, or maybe there's chemotherapy and there's significant downtimes or times when they're not able to produce or act in the way that you had been in a different stage of life. And the cost of relationship is the thing that's going to cause this question. This is, I'm going to phrase it as a question in a second here, but there's a cost, and that is a burden. But isn't that different than your identity? Because when we ask the question, am I a burden? We're asking the question about you personally, or is that relationship, that entity of you, are you a burden? Or is there a cost in doing relationship with somebody who has a extreme cancer journey, or somebody who has a special need of cerebral palsy? Because I look at your life, it's like, hey, if you want to go to, you and I have gone to a football game, but to take you to a football game means that there's a lot of logistics that have to be worked out to bring the chair, to figure out how to get there, where we're going to park, and all the details. There's a cost, and it doesn't mean that anything about your identity. It just means, hey, there's a cost to doing a relationship. And once I recognize that, and once I think a cancer patient recognizes that, it has to do is, can you separate the cost of relationship from your identity. That's really where the question's at. Does that make sense to you guys? I guess.
Yeah, and it's a powerful. I mean, it's a powerful statement, Sean. I think that yes, there is a cost. Let's say that I'm traveling with someone on a cancer journey, and it's pretty involved. Treatments in New York City. I got to drive down there and get them situated at home, arrange for meals, and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, there is a cost, and would I want that person to identify themselves as a burden? As a caregiver, the answer would be no way do I want them to identify themselves as a burden. I don't know if that gets at it, but I think that it's a joy. I find purpose in service, and I think a lot of people find purpose in service. So it's a joy for me to step into the world of a cancer patient and partner with them. I've been doing it now for 17 years.
You took the opposite role. That's what's interesting, though.
Oh,
well, no, it's okay. I think I think it's important to think about it that way. But I'm also interested in, how did you wrestle out for yourself, recognizing that there's a cost?
Yeah.
Were you able to separate in your own life, for you personally, about whether or not the fact that anybody who does relationship with you today, who's involved at this kind of level of intimacy, and this is for both of you guys, are you able to separate?
I know
my identity from the fact that there's a cost.
I know for me, a lot of people have come alongside, like driving me to radiation appointments every day for weeks down in lower Manhattan, or recovery, having to visit me and drive me to recovery. Hospitalizations, I've had a ton of them. And it's funny. I have not identified myself as a burden in those situations. I think that that there's a reason why someone's coming alongside of me for them. I mean, that's how I view it. Wes, how about you?
Right. Yeah, I know the cause of helping me, of guys coming every morning. I always think, am I wasting this guy time to come at 8 o'clock in the morning? Or put it between you and me, John. Am I wasting your time asking you for me to celebrate recovery every Thursday at 6 o'clock? Then I said to myself, no, Wes, you're not wasting your time. This nowadays, before days, I might say, Wes, what are you doing asking Sean to go? He probably got other stuff to do, or he want to get there so quick tonight. But nowadays, I'm like, hey, me and Sean have a good relationship, which I feel. So I like ask Sean, hey, 6 o'clock, I'll be ready, and I try my best to be on time or early for Sean before Sean get there with the handicap van.
I'm going to ask I'm going to go another layer into this question. And that is, can you have real relationship without cost?
Wow. Wow. Thank God I don't have to answer that one.
Oh, you're going to force that on Wes?
Yeah, Wes.
You two are like the stars here. You're supposed to answer these questions.
We are? We're supposed to answer? I mean, I would just say that you can have relationship, but the deep vulnerability comes from the cost part.
See, that's interesting. You would say that. I'm actually here. Wes says I want to interact with you guys in this a little bit.
Yeah. For my point of view, and my point is how deep I want to go into the relationship. If it's just say hi bye every day, hey, I need no cause. But if I see a person and I say to myself, hey, I want something more than hi bye with that guy or with even that girl, I say I got to sacrifice something.
Leave it to Wes to bring the women into this equation. Sorry.
Yeah, Wes did it.
Hallelujah.
So-
Everything.
Too much. I had to go there, right?
Amen.
Well, something that I've been just thinking about a lot, and it's somewhat the basis for the question, and it springs off of Wes, where you started at with a person's willingness to listen, and you're like, hey, they don't come back after 10 minutes, and why not? And it seems like the first act of love is presence. And presence requires time, and time is a cost. And so I'm making an argument, at least a case, that for any relationship, and you guys weren't wrong. You guys went to depth of relationship in the way you were responding, which is fine. I think it makes still sense. But I was going to take it back just a step back from there to the kind of really almost the starting point. And the starting point of relationship is presence, or the starting point of love is presence. And to give someone presence means that it's going to cost you something. And so I'm going to make the argument that there is no relationship without a cost. And now we're only talking about degrees of cost. And I think I say this as a Cancer, for people who are in this Cancer arena, is that the moment that thought comes to your head, am I a burden? There are costs for relationship, and there are degrees of cost. But I think what you guys just described was that somewhere in the equation of great love is probably greater cost, meaning that greater expressions of love come where there's greater cost. Does that resonate with you?
Where it resonates with me is in bringing up children, especially on a mom, but also a dad, of the fact that this baby's born and there's a cost involved. Is it a burden? Well, you have to do everything for that little child. And that little child grows up. And so you have a huge investment, huge cost into that person who grows up. And then there is a deep, deep depth of relationship with that child.
Yeah.
And obviously it's your own flesh and blood, but even an adopted child that you get as a baby, I think there's the same depth,
That's good. So back to you, Wes. Is there a relationship between people who are willing to invest cost and depth of love that's shown? Does that resonate with you too? Is like the people who are willing to invest in the cost of relationship with you? Because I'm thinking of some people in my mind right now. But those who invest are expressing the deepest form of love, that have the deepest willingness to engage in the cost.
Yeah, I think like the people that I can see the cause and they want deeper relationship with me, but sometimes I don't know. I've been hurt in the past, so I cannot commit to that relationship, even though I know and I see the other person giving the God and wanting a deeper relationship with me, and that's what I've been working with God. How deep, but of course I'm gonna protect my own self,
Hmm. Well, it's interesting that as I think about this, am I a burden question? I think the question probably can be flipped to how great is the love?
Wow.
Because it feels like that's what's being asked.
Right.
And so maybe for cancer patients who are feeling that question is, am I a burden? It's actually just an invitation to how deep is the love and how deep can it be? Because the cost is, yes, might be high, but it's also going to be one of the great expressions of love, opportunities to express love one to another. So resonate, maybe to see if this, for you, Wes, you can connect, or do you connect with that in some cases a shallow, people walk by and hey, and maybe you talk about the weather, but it's like those who invest into that cost, that you get to experience a greater degree of love with those people.
Yeah, I do like spirit. Yeah, I can see so much love to those people who willing to take the time, willing to give the cause, spending time with me rather than those people who just run away from me or just pass me by,
Yeah, it might, for some of us, to take on relationship with Wes or a cancer patient, it might require us to step out of our comfort zone. And even though that's painful, I know my own experience is that it's very healthy and it has resulted in growth. And that's a good thing for me. It's made me a better person to step out of my comfort zone and have to do things that I normally don't do.
That's good. And in that sense, would you say that your cancer journey is a gift to them?
Yeah, I mean, that we're kind of bringing it a circle, right?
Yeah.
And I do, Sean. That's why I mean, that's what I tell cancer patients when I come alongside of them when they ask the question. And I said, this is an opportunity for a caregiver or for a person to step into a place that can be just an incredible growth and joyful place, to be a part of doing a journey with you. It does involve cost. It's a great concept, because to say it doesn't involve cost would not be truthful, but it does involve cost. But that cost can result in such great benefits. And, it was funny. I was doing these rides down to the lower Manhattan for radiation, and one of my buddies I hadn't asked him to drive me. I had a different driver almost every day for like, we're talking 7 weeks, 8 weeks. And I could tell he was upset with me. So I looked behind me. I was at church and I said, hey, I need a ride down to radiation. And his eyes lit up. And it wasn't the fact that he could give me a ride, but it was a 4-hour window where it would just be me and him. And we hadn't had that. So my radiation treatments became opportunities for me to spend one-on-one time, whether it was with my son, friend, pastors, I got all kinds of people drove me down. You know, so the cost of driving me down and that whole thing, it turned into a window of opportunity for both of us. That's for deeper relationship.
That's a great perspective. Have you got to, in your journey, that you could see CP as a benefit to others?
In my journey, yeah, I think my CP is benefit to me and to others. To like, for me, I'm still struggling, going through my mind why I got CP. How can it be a pro for me, which I'm gaining confidence in myself that I can make it a pro. Like you say, Sean, I got a platform to talk to anybody I want, whether a church, CR, CPF, you know, and I'm starting to see that, and I hope to those people helping me, they see it also as a pro for themselves, which I believe is a pro for other people because they can maybe learn to help other people, learn to communicate with the disability people, you know, and that's what I always think in my mind to how could Sean or Peter see me as a plus in their life.
Yeah, and I'll just say that, Wes, I don't know what went through your parents' mind when they discovered your CP, whether they thought, wow, our son's going to have a rough time in life. You know, this is a terrible thing. But I will tell you, I mean, I've known you now 9 years, I think. I've watched you be a leader in the different spheres that you operate in, and that your condition has been a platform, like you said. And I know guys that'll be like, hold on, Wes is talking. I want to hear what he has to say. So, I mean, it's just been an unbelievable blessing. Wes is.
I've been in a room full of teenagers and you could hear a pin drop.
Yeah.
So I'm going to do something that we do as a ministry concept for value. In other words, when we do this listening exercise, and I'm going to ask a final question, and it is, we do it as a listening exercise, or anything else that you would like to share with this group of people that's on your mind. And maybe as you're thinking about that, or as it's coming out, it's like, what's the most important thing that you would like them to hear or remember from our conversation today, from your voice to anybody who hears this podcast?
Well, for me, the most important. I want people to resonate with. For me, myself, is just be patient with me in having conversation. Yes, I may be slow in talking, but my mind is quick like lightning, and I want you to know that I can talk with the best of them.
Yeah. Thanks, Wes.
So, you want to add anything else? This is your podcast, so I'll let you.
Yeah, I'm just going to close with
a
current situation right now. My dad is 91, and he, in the past year, has had several health issues, and he's wheelchair bound. He walks a little bit, but he has to be bathed and wiped and everything. Cognitively, he's really lost a lot, and I've been spending a lot of time with him, helping him. I mean, doing the basics with him. And there's a cost. There's times I'm tired and I don't want to go to his house and do all these things. But my stepmom hurt herself, and she is really unable to walk right now. So they need a lot of help. But there's something when I'm helping him that I'm filled with like pleasure and joy in being able to do this. I can't describe it other than taking care of him, knowing what he's done for me my whole life even, but just taking care of him is not a burden. And it helps that he's a nice old man. Sometimes these old men are not nice, but this guy is nice. Anyway.
Yeah, thank you guys both for sharing. Wes, thanks for being on the podcast today. So applause to you for sharing your heart. And so, hopefully if you're hearing this podcast and you've had feelings about whether you're burdened or not, there's an encouragement in that. Sometimes the cost of relationship is an opportunity for greater love, and your identity, who you are, is not a burden. I'm going to say that as clearly as we can. And so Wes is not a burden. Wes is a really good, close friend. And Peter, you're not a burden. And nor is anybody who's hearing this podcast. There may be a costly relationship with you, especially with you, Peter. It's like the cost of but we want you guys to be encouraged as we close this podcast out today. And just, Wes, I'm encouraged every time we talk about aspects of your own journey. And so I thank you for sharing your life.
Thanks, buddy.
So
appreciate it.
So we'll call that a wrap. Thank you for listening.
Thanks,
and if you want more info, go to cancerandpeace.com and you'll see resources, including Peter's book. He's a something bestseller. I didn't want to lie and say New York Times because I don't think he made it.
I don't even think all my kids have read the book. So there's not much best selling going on.
But Peter's gone on a date recently, and his date read the book in one setting. So it was
so we should
riveting.
Probably limit the discussion right there.
So we're going to call that a wrap. Thanks, everybody.
Okay. Thanks. Okay.